So I was watching some Joe Rogan the other day, right? Like a man does. And in this clip, he was talking with someone about the prospect of an AI president, right? And how we could replace politicians with these like super educated, super well-trained AI models that'll make decisions for us. And I thought, wow, that's a really interesting hypothetical. And I mean, it sounds pretty hard to fathom that that would actually happen in reality. But I wanted to explore this idea and think about what the merits and drawbacks of that could be. So I guess to begin, what is our current system? Well, we have a democracy, or we like to believe we do, and we elect people like senators, congresspeople, presidents, and we believe that they will be performing their duties in the best interest of the public, that they will be making decisions that will have our core beliefs and requirements at heart. And I mean, that sounds nice and it sounds great on paper. That's not how it really works most of the time. Humans are easily manipulated. They love money, they love power. And, as a result, we have these really high-level politicians making millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and they're leveraging their jobs to get all that power and money. And I think now people are just really getting tired of it, and they want to see a change, or they at least want to see some improvement to corruption or stuff like that. And so that begs the question, what if instead of having easily manipulated, power-hungry humans, we relinquish that decision-making to a computer program, an AI? And I mean, it sounds sci-fi, it sounds crazy to do that, but there might be some actual merit to that. Like, for one, an AI program could be trained on hundreds, if not thousands of years of data and decisions that were made. And a human, like when we elect a president, we expect that they're going to be an expert on immigration, military, foreign and domestic policy, social things, right? And I mean, you would hope that by electing someone to the highest office of power that they're going to be good at that. A lot of the time they're just not, dude. I mean, they're imperfect. They can't hold that much knowledge in their head or be that good at that many things most of the time. And it shows in the presidents. Like, a lot of the time presidents really suck at certain areas of expertise. And so maybe instead we just give that to an AI program and say, we've trained you on all of this data. You make the decision for us. And, it could be pretty advantageous for us. But, the immediate counter argument to that is, just like a human, an AI program can be probably easily tainted. And who's to say a foreign nation or bad actor group that doesn't like America or whatever country you're really referring to, and they hack the program and they have their interests at heart to harm us. That could definitely happen. So that's not perfect. And also, and this is a huge point, if you have any AI program, anything that is, in this instance, replacing a job, how we're saying instead of having a human president, we have an AI president, that means, obviously, that someone is losing their job. And humans don't like that, dude. When people hear that their jobs are going away, that's pretty hard. That's a pretty hard sell. And especially when you have politicians or people making so much money and you're like, we're just going to take this away from you. Like, can you imagine if you went up to Nancy Pelosi, like, hey, I know you've been making a few $100 million a year using your job, but that's going away now. Are you cool with that? Of course she's not cool with that. Like, imagine trying to sell this to politicians and being like, we're going to take your job away. Hope you're happy with that. Like, that's not going to happen. And another big drawback, or people would say is a drawback to AI, is that there are often lots of decisions that politicians or people in high points of power, they have to make decisions with incomplete information, or they have to make decisions that it's just like a gut feeling, And it reminds me of this story back in the Cold War when there was an officer working on a nuclear submarine, armed with missiles. And I don't remember the details, but it was something along the lines of this officer saw something on his radar that looked like it could have been an attack, like a nuclear attack or something. And so they had to act really quickly. and decide if they would respond with their own missiles or stand down. And there was one officer that did not go through with it. He said, I'm not going to hit the fire button. I'm not going to launch these missiles because I have this just instinctual feeling that this is not right, that this is not actually an attack. And obviously the attack never happened, because I'm sitting here live. And that's an example of how humans often are good under pressure and can make those kinds of life or death decisions. And we can't really explain why. It's just like, I don't know, man. I get that weird feeling. And at least today, I don't think most people have faith in a computer program to make that kind of decision. Because a lot of people think that a program is just purely binary. It just makes decisions that are purely rational, purely logical. There's no emotion or ego tainting it. And that's true. I mean, it's just ones and zeros and it's a program. But in that example, who's to say if the program could have actually made the decision that resulted in us not all dying in a nuclear war? Maybe a program would have launched the missiles because it's like, oh, I see a threat, I better respond. And, that's the kind of thing that I think most people would be uncomfortable giving the reins over to a computer. And so in that regard, and those other examples I gave earlier, I do think that ultimately it's not realistic or feasible to have an entire position like the presidency given up to a computer. I don't think that's going to happen. But I do think, and I think this is probably the mentality to take with most AI programs, is that it's not something to replace us. It's not something to completely take away our autonomy and say, do my job for me 100%. I think it should be a supplemental tool. It should be something that we say, hey, give me some advice. Or like, hey, give me some analysis on this situation so that I can ultimately make the decision. And I think that's the way to do it. Because, like I said earlier, humans cannot be experts at everything. We cannot know everything. We cannot have an infinite bank of knowledge in our head about everything. And we definitely cannot see all of the future steps, like in a chess game, right? How an AI program nowadays can beat some of the best grandmasters because they can see like 50 steps into the future or something. And so maybe we would be wise in government to say, let's ask the AI program here for what it thinks would be the best move, but we have the final say, Because like I said, I don't think people are ever going to get comfortable enough to say that we can give life or death consequences to a program. Like how right now, people are very uncomfortable still with the idea of self-driving cars. And when you're in that decision of like, oh, should I merge in this lane? And I've heard that people are driving, their self-driving car like a Tesla, and it makes some decision, and you're like, whoa, that was not the right decision. And you still need a human at the wheel making the shots, making the calls. And when you upgrade to things like nuclear launch codes or decisions that will impact hundreds of millions of people, you definitely need a human there to still make the final call. But I still think that AI has a place. And I think, like I said, it should be supplemental, not a replacement. But if you have any thoughts on that, I'd love to hear it. I know that's more of like a hypothetical, not really like a life lesson, but I just thought it was really interesting and I wanted to talk about it. But that's about it. I'll catch you later.